During the course of this project, the NFT component of it certainly took a back seat at a certain point.
Oh, there, right there.
Yes. Here's good too then. This is all good right here.
Yeah, don't touch it. It's perfect.
Perfect.
And it was much more about the art and trying to realize the artist's vision.
I think that Alex Suavoni's two pieces are incredibly interesting and different from the rest of the collection.
So I have two pieces. I have a cube called Lumos, and I have a piece called Donna. Donna is based on the Virgin Mary. She's based on Egyptian iconography and futurism. It does take iconography from the Virgin Mary, being that it's the shape, the gesture of it. But also, too, that shape is a standing wave, a two harmonic standing wave. So I was drawing inspiration from all those references and finding a way to design something that was still on par of my practice, but I was in communication with like chaos because I was just taking these random strings and bringing them together.
If you purchase one of Alex's pieces, it gives you the legal right to reproduce that piece.
The idea too is I want to find a different way to communicate with my collectors and see how we can have a conversation over the ideas.
It gives you the full IP. It gives you the ability legally to augment, change the scale of, do whatever you want to it. You know, make it the piece, the Donna, make the piece the size of a building, put it upside down. I think that's really interesting.
When I started Spore Majesty, pretty much knew that I wanted to make a mushroom queen for quite a while, and I really have an interest in goddesses and ethereal nature and, you know, that being compatible with digital realms. I really wanted to make something more peaceful and more just like chill and less emotionally impactful. My second piece is called Molting, and that's going to be the one of one. It looks like someone just died and a ghost is coming up out of the person. Their spirit is coming up out of them. And then beyond that is from spirit to reaching the other realm. And it's this bright orange figure, and she's pointing up. So it's kind of like going somewhere else, looking towards the future. And it could also, you know, you could also say that's about change, not just about death, like going from one situation to you're kind of starting to rise out of that and make the transition into something better.
Elle's was different in the way that there was a physical garment that with every purchase of a PFP you receive a garment, and Elle describes their work as digital and physical knitwear, which I think is interesting. I mean, obviously the garments are beautiful. And, you know, Elle is working in a really like pop anime space alongside like high fashion, and that's really unique, I think.
I'm an analog girl living in a digital world, you know? So like, how do I connect like that ground roots kind of vibe? And so for me, that's like my Taino indigenous roots. So I wanted to like dig deeper, and I was like, okay, well, Tainos originally like engraved their symbols in stone. So what if I take like these, make it like more modern, where tagging graffiti is kind of like what the indigenous people did back in the days, right? But it's like with spray paint, and I took the gods, which are the Kemis, and I made them these like Kemi taggers. So there's one that is Dios del Sol, and he's the one of one, which is the god of the sun. And the other one is Cohoba. And so Cohoba is the one of 20 edition. And I want to keep on going on with this. Like there's like over like 15 chemis, so I want to eventually like do all the chemis, and I want to do like a whole cartoon based off of it as well.
As we were getting down to the wire, the NFT component of this reared its head and became very, very central to what we were doing again. The idea was an NFT art collection, therefore there had to be NFTs.
That's going to be really awesome.
That means they had to be minted, they had to be accessible. People had to be able to acquire an NFT. And that wasn't a straightforward thing. So Courtney does project that really calm, I've got everything under control. But there were a few moments where Courtney was pretty stressed out.
That was out-of-body experience.
You know, we're at the 11th hour and she had to relist the entire collection.
You know, I'm like calling people, and then finally I get a WhatsApp back from Kika, and she's like, I think that you minted it in USD Tezos, which is a form of currency I didn't even know existed. And I was like, okay, what needs to happen? And she was like, well, it's late in Europe, so you need to relist everything within the next hour.
And, you know, the clock was ticking down, and we're on the day of the opening, right?
I looked at Chris, and I was like, there are 3 main things that need to happen. I can get 2 of them done, but I need you to relist all this work. He relisted all this work, and I did the 2 other things. That was cutting it close. That was very stressful. That was very stressful. And then when we went and got ready. You know, I had no idea how the physical public was going to react to the show. I didn't know if they were going to walk in and be like, I don't understand, and like, you know, people get angry at things they don't understand. It's a natural human reaction. So it was like, how do we make it as bulletproof as possible for people to feel comfortable?
The people that came through the doors were open-minded people as well, because you know, the creative class are not just people who create, but they're also people who consume.
People were coming in, the feeling, the energy in the room was like, everyone was like, oh, you know?
Yeah, no, all the pieces look incredible.
I do know that there were a lot of people who came in who did not RSVP, and we were letting them in because the flow was so calm, and they were moving through respectfully, and then they were like leaving and going. And it was just this perfect cycle. I don't think it could have flowed any better.
We're a more forgiving environment than some of the other creative cities in the country.
I think that Boyana's immersion is probably the largest scale that she has done, and I'm impressed with the amount of detail in it that actually does physically impact my body. When I look at it inside of the physical installation, it does make me calm my breathing. It does calm my face and the nerves in my face, so medically I can feel the piece.
That it's based on experience, like immersive experience for people walk into the work. They have light projected on their bodies. There's organic fiber everywhere. There are rhythms of breath, right, in and out. So it's very immersive concept. How do I take that experience and present it as an NFT?
And we had to go through this process a little bit. So at first, you know, the representative NFT of that piece was a static image. And it was like the night before the show, and I was like, doesn't do it. You know, I don't feel it the way I feel it in person.
So what I did is taking a snippet of that video that is projected and making a little 10-second NFT where all you see is one of these forms breathing in and out. It's kind of capturing a breath with something contemporary and popular and even maybe banal.
So I thought that was a really successful moment of translating something big, building size, and still that same medical application read through my phone.
She was doing a lot of AI mid-journey generated images, and it's nice to see how that can come to life through projections in the space.
What I love to see is when people are standing in the middle of like a projection, and the projection is like over their bodies. And like the color and the material is like their skin, like it's skinning them. And I wanna experience that for myself. I wanna see my work interacted with in that manner that's pleasing to me. I find that so satisfying. So, yes.
You go to gallery openings, and I've learned to really feel for the artist, because it's a moment of vulnerability, you know.
I tend to like to fade into the background, and I tend to like to let my work speak for myself, but I'm realizing like there's space for me as a person to also be a part of the process and to not always hide.
Artist does all their work and they put it out there, and then they come and watch people interact with it, and it's, you know, it's highly personal to them.
And be faceless and nameless, but to show up as well with the work. And I think we're all here to do certain things in this world, in this life, and this is a part of my purpose, and I have to start showing up for myself in that way.
I stopped using the word NFT a long time ago. It has so much baggage. And so even though these are essentially the historic name of NFTs, like this is a digital and physical gallery, and everything is for sale. And that is all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be digital art or physical art. It's just like, it's a gallery of artwork. And this is a transactional piece that is unique. And I think that also it came down to like, let's normalize buying artwork the same as buying groceries. I think at that point I was in it. At that point I was just having like personal moments with people who were excited to be there. Some of them like alum of the art scene, and others that were like brand new to this market and excited. I see pieces in galleries all the time and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. If I could just like click on a link and go into a cyber gallery and like buy it, maybe I would do that. So we developed a cyber gallery. Take a walk through our cyber gallery, you can buy them now. And a lot of people went on and we saw pieces being bought. And so I think that we have technically 4 galleries that represent this one collection right now.
So the piece Conditional Decay is a little bit about the blockchain evolving and technology deteriorating. So while my address on the blockchain has different evolutions of different transactions, it's also creating a change in the light installation, which in essence, while it's on, it's going to be losing power and eventually need to change the microcontrollers or the LEDs. Yeah, I'm excited to see Fahamo's very intimate, in-your-face LED screen. That's going to be really good.
You could just go in there and quickly appreciate some of his art and the presentation of it and the soothing voices.
When I knew I was committed, that this would be my life, I had to try to describe that particular condition, which is the living proof of my inheritance.
And not really get into what was being said.
But that piece was beautiful, and people really attached to it. I think the public was impressed that this is how simple it is to engage with digital art and artists. And then I think the artists were impressed that the public was so open to engage with their art. I think everybody was kind of in love at the same moment. It was really cool.
No one needs a piece of art, right? So, the chances that in that crowd that came on that night that you would sell out everything is very small, especially when you're doing something so new.
People who were in the financial market that were blown away by the simple process of getting this wallet, and people who had bought NFTs before who knew that we were like onto some new technology kind of stuff.
Almost everybody is comfortable with using a credit card, and so people are going to be very comfortable knowing that they can look at a price on the wall, there's a QR code, and takes them to the online gallery where they can hit purchase, and then using their new wallet with the credit card information, fund it, make the transaction.
Because if you can go into a gallery and knock out all the protocols that are, where is the price sheet? Let me talk to the gallerist, like all of the rigmarole of that, then I think more artwork would be purchased and more normalized as commerce.
It's making it a lot easier, and so hats off to Courtney and the team for finding this approach and piloting it really on this collection. I think some of the artists like Chris really did an amazing experience. Ultimately he had one very small piece of art, an object.
It's essentially a phygital piece, right? So you're going to own the token on the blockchain, which is the AI created version. That piece, once you have ownership of it, you'll be able to use it on, say, your avatar somewhere in the metaverse. But how I'd ultimately like to display them is as a one-of-one piece, levitating on an electromagnet.
The entire room was an experience, and then the fact that he had AI-generated poems being projected in real time, responding to Webb telescope images. I mean, that's another level. That was pretty amazing. And probably the vast majority of people that came into that room, only responded or reacted to a portion of what was available. And that's what's great. That would be an installation that you could keep going back to and always discover something new.
This show had, I would say, a lot of wow factors and a lot of things behind the scenes that people didn't see on purpose too, so that people could be suspended in the moment. So they can actually immerse themselves in the science of happiness and not know that it took 3 days and 6 people and a lot of emotion to get those to line up perfectly. To know that, there were things covered up intentionally so that people could feel like they were really inside of a pink sea, a cosmic web. There were a lot of smart people putting their mark on all of these artworks beyond the artist and with the artist. That, I think the talent of our team, really what showed up the talent of our team is that nobody saw how it was done.
Art is so subjective, and I don't want to get drawn into which artist, which piece, which installation I reacted and responded to. I think they were all fantastic. And I think, you know, the response of the crowds was so rewarding to see. Different people were obviously had their favorites, but they were responding to everything in a very positive way.
People approach me and they enjoy the experience. And that's something that actually I love, especially when people share their thoughts with me. And it stuns me, just the depth of conversations that I have with complete strangers.
I think the general public came in there not knowing what to expect and you know, leaving their judgment at the doors.
I'm hoping that I'm able to have a different conversation with collectors through this work. I want to have a conversation that's more sovereign, that's how do you want this piece to exist in your life, and how can I help you bring that to fruition? Instead of the reverse, where I'm just like, I have this object, do you want it? Like, I have this idea, how do you want to commune with it and commune with me to make this?
Like you're collaborating.
I'm collaborating with the collector. Yeah, we're having a relationship now that's different than just an object exchange.
For me, it's like I went into this NFT project trying to find, okay, what do I do? And then when I found it, it turned into like a whole nother thing. Like now I want to create so much from what like the roots of this NFT is gonna be, is gonna turn into like a whole world.
People could say, well, could ask, have you sold everything? So is that a measure of success? And you know, we live in a very transactional society, and especially in America, you know, money is really important. And so you could say, well, if you didn't sell out the entire show, then it wasn't a success. And we didn't. There were people that had bought their very, very first NFT. But the objective was never to be a monetization. The objective here was to showcase the creative talent.
And I feel like our show that was physical and our show online, which is making huge waves, really kind of is single-handedly normalizing digital and physical artwork collaborations.
Yeah, when I started out this project with the thesis that NFTs were just a speculative asset class and not really art. And you know, on the spectrum, obviously there were many NFTs that were true art pieces, and I hadn't been exposed to them. So on that journey, I got more into it and realized, yes, there is certainly a lot of NFT art being produced. So yes, it's been quite a change in my mindset, at least, you know. But the important part here was being exposed and almost sort of a participant in the process of the creation with the artists, and you know, it provides a much deeper meaning, and so you end up with a little piece of digital art that you can look at, but what you're looking at really is this bigger and deeper story. There's always hope that this can be take on a life of its own. There is very much the spirit here that we are incubating something that will continue beyond this. It's not a one and done deal. There is very much that intent that we can pull it off, and that it would be something that will be a standalone vehicle that will just, you know, continue to support the Atlanta art scene. So we'll see. tiny hope.